Well, I want to deal with the facts, because the facts are very, very loud. As we speak, as we sit here, the power sector debt is rising, is climbing. Indeed, the last time I checked, some said that the power sector debt was $3.1 billion.
Yes.
Others even said that it was $3.7 billion. And the power sector debt is rising. This is the reality. This is the fact. Now, as a result of the power sector debt, it is just possible. Indeed, I think it will happen if we don't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Very soon, we will not be able to provide power
At all.
Yeah.
to industry, to the health sector. This country can grind to a halt.
Yeah.
There's a problem that we face. Okay? Now, the facts also include the reality that this energy sector levy is not a new levy. It's been there for some time. Indeed, under the New Patriotic Party, there was an energy sector levy.
Yeah.
Except that at the time, it was 95 pesos.
Sure.
And this government is adding one cedi to it. So that's also a fact. Now, the fact is also that governments, at least since 2000, have come to the conclusion, rightly or wrongly, that the way to retire the energy sector debt is through the imposition of levies.
Right.
And that is why President Kufuor imposed the third debt recovery levy.
Yeah.
Yes.
I suspect that it is still in
It's still
the-
there. It's
in
still
the-
in our books.
It's still there. So these are the facts.
Yes.
Okay? So this government has not introduced a new levy.
Yes.
It has only increased the levy. Okay? The power sector debt is ballooning, and the country faces the threat of a shutdown in electricity supply. Now, this government thought that given the fact that we've had a windfall, as a result of the strength of the cedi, and as a result of world market dynamics and so on, we've had a huge windfall. We could take some of that windfall in order to retire this debt and to make it possible for us to continue to supply electricity to industry, to the educational sector, to the health sector, and so on. Now, our friends, led by Kojo Oppong Nkrumah, says, don't charge that levy. Don't charge that levy. Withdraw that increase in the levy. Is that a solution to the problem?
Obviously not.
It is not a solution to the problem. Yes, don't charge that levy. Okay, we won't charge that levy. What is the solution to the problem?
I asked our good friend here. He says we change our attitude.
Management, mismanagement,
Management.
proper management.
There is a debt of almost $4 billion sitting on our heads. That's the reality. The power sector is grinding to a halt with devastating consequences for us. Government says, I'm charging a levy of one cedi out of a windfall that all of us admit exists. And you say, don't charge it. But there's no solution to the problem. Nobody has offered a solution to the problem. That's my worry. You see, we need to have a responsible opposition. A responsible opposition is the kind of opposition which makes contributions to finding solutions to the problems that confront us. So, okay, we agree. Don't charge the levy, we agree. What is the solution? Zilch, nothing. That's my worry. Okay? That is my worry. In any case, we may also come to the point where we begin to ask questions. How did the power sector debt balloon to $3.7 or $3.1 billion? How did it? especially when before the Mahama administration left office, I think in 2017, it set up the ESLA fund, which was supposed to be used to retire the indebtedness. What happened? It becomes important to raise that question. And when you begin to raise that question, one of the things that hits you in the face is that that fund was seized and used as collateral in order to obtain more loans. Can't believe it, but it happened. You understand? It happened. Yes, I have listened to many people who have spoken, and I've listened to people who have said, go ahead, charge the levy. But ultimately, the levy cannot be the final solution to the problem.
Yeah.
Because for as long as the inefficiencies in the system are not addressed, it is likely that there will be substantial waste, which substantial waste can translate into more debt and so on. I agree with that position. You want to impose a levy of 1 cedi, perhaps go ahead, but ensure that the technical losses that ECG suffers are reduced. Ensure that the gross mismanagement of the power sector is addressed, and so on, so that the public is not unduly overburdened with levies. And I agree with my brother here that many of our governments have stopped thinking. Okay? So anytime there's a problem, the solution is just tax, and so on. We ought to be able to move away from that. So I agree with you on that score. That long term, maybe even medium term, we should begin to think about things that we can do in order to remedy our current situation without resorting to increased taxation. And that, as a principle, is a welcome principle. You understand? Now, government takes cognizance of what is happening in West Asia and the Middle East. Basically, the Iran-Israel conflict. And realizes that, look, it is possible that the price of petroleum products will shoot up. And therefore, the windfall that we want to take part to retire the debt may not be there. So therefore, let us suspend this levy for some time. And the opposition says, why are you doing that?
They want it totally scrapped.
And then my brother here says the government should have anticipated that.
We didn't even want it in the first place.
Hold on. My brother, let me tell you, honestly, from the bottom, the very bottom of my heart, that I know that there's no witchcraft in the Mahama administration. Only wizards could have predicted that there was going to be this outcome in the Israel-Iran tensions. Who could have predicted that 6 days ago, Israel would behave in this reckless manner and launch this massive aggression against
Just
Iran?
like COVID and Ukraine war, Russia-Ukraine war.
Who could have predicted?
Who could have predicted?
No, please don't go to Russia and Ukraine war. That's another terrain. Don't go there. You understand? So if it has happened, in the case of the Ukraine-Russia war and so on, hardships were imposed on the people of Ghana. In the case of the Israel-Iran conflict, the hardships are being reduced. That's the substantial difference. The hardships are being reduced. So don't compare the two. Don't put the two together. Two different things are happening. You understand? So if you issue press statements and you say, but then government shouldn't have imposed the levy because government should have anticipated this conflict and so on, I begin to wonder. You think that Mahama is a wizard? You think that there are some witches in Jubilee House? There are no witches in Jubilee House. They are human beings like us. I couldn't predict. And I didn't expect you to predict. And I don't see how anybody could have expected Mahama to exhibit this very high level of wizardry in predicting that this was going to happen. It has happened. We have to take account of it.
Okay.
Any responsible government would have to take measures in order to minimize the impact of this conflict on our economy and so on. And I think that that's one of the measures that this government has taken.
Right.
In any case, we haven't seen the worst yet. And I'm sure you know that we haven't seen the worst yet. Mm-hmm. Iran is actually threatening to close the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah.
And if it crosses the Strait of Hormuz,
natural gas surface.
Wow! Energy supply is going to be in huge problems. And the prices are going to escalate. And every country in the world
Will suffer.
Will suffer and
Obviously.
is preparing for that. Now we know. Now the threat has been made. So we know. So you can factor it into your planning and so on. You understand? So let us all think together and see if we can find some solutions to the problem which will alleviate the sufferings of Ghanaians.
Okay.
And stop pretending
All right.
that once you get to Flagstaff House, you become a wizard. There are no wizards in Flagstaff House.
Yeah. Okay.